Alright, let's go ahead and work on the cannonball. It's going to be a lot like the magic orb in the same sense that it's an object moving and it can be able to apply damage to objects that it hits. So if you remember in our cannonball, we have the cannonball script assigned to it right here. We're going to go ahead and open up the cannonball. Remember, you can double click on it here to open it up. If you already have it opened up, then you can just go into the scene. We're going to go to our cannonball script right here. Alright, so getting started with, let's go ahead and zoom in on this so we can see it here. So remember, with the cannonball part, what we want to do, we're going to do a little bit differently. Think of a cannonball, when it's shot, it's going to have an arc to it and it falls, so we're going to actually apply force to it rather than actually just doing a speed. So let's go ahead and put in some variables. We'll do it similar to how we did with the magic orb there. So we're going to make a public variable. We'll start off with our first one, which we'll do an integer called hit point. And this time we'll make it a little bit stronger than the magic orb. We'll do it like twice as much. However, during gameplay, testing and stuff, you may find that you want to balance the numbers differently. Alright, let's make another public variable. We're going to do this one. It's going to be a min force. And we'll start it off. This is going to be using Unity's physics system. So we'll say a min force of 400. We're going to do we're going to do a max force this time, and this one we're going to do around 700 or so. Alright, so those are going to be in place of our speed. This is going to be the force at which the object is pushed outwards. Let's go ahead and do our audio clips like we've done before. The audio clip that we did one that was a audio hit. We'll make this one equal to null again. We'll do another audio clip. This one we'll do shoot. And we'll do the null value for that one as well. And then remember, we also did one that was a particles type effect, so we'll do a particle system. And the particle system, we'll set that one to null as well. Alright, so now we have all of our basic variables we're going to use throughout the project for the cannonball, at least to get started with. Let's go ahead and save where we're at here. Once we save, let's go ahead and go back into Unity now. And once Unity compiles, let's go ahead and click on our cannonball. So the cannonball, notice now you have the cannonball option right there with all the variables we can fill out. Two of them that we want to go ahead and place in, the audio hit and the audio shoot. So let's go ahead and go to our audio hit, click on the load button. We're going to look for cannonball hit. So we'll select the cannonball hit. We'll go to the audio shoot. We'll click on the cannonball shoot. Alright, so now we have our audio set up for this. Now if you remember from before, we wanted to make sure that we have the rigid body and an audio source assigned to the components. So assigned to the cannonball. So I'm just going to do a rigid body. And then we'll do an add component. We'll do an audio source. Alright, so now a couple of things that are a little bit different than before, if you remember. The one with the magic orb, when we did our rigid body, we used is kinematic and we had the gravity off. We also made sure that we did trigger on for this one. Well, for the cannonball is actually going to hit and roll inside the scene, which means we want to leave the collider just as it is. And we're going to do a little different thing for this one to find the trigger event for it. For the rigid body, we're just going to use gravity because we want the actual object to be used by the physics system. So let's go ahead and with this setup, let's go ahead and go into our code one more time here. So a lot like the way the bullet was when it first shot out, we had something happen on the awake. So we're going to do a void awake. And inside the awake, what we want to actually have happen is we want to apply a force to the object using that rigid body component. So we're just going to say this get component, and then we're going to do the rigid body component. And part of rigid body component, there's one called add relative force. So we're going to add the relative force. And inside the relative force, it's going to look for a vector 3, which means it needs an x, y, and z. So we're going to say inside of here, we're going to declare a new vector 3. And we're going to do an x, y, z. We're going to say on the x, it's going to go 0. But for height and for depth, the forward direction, we're going to say we're just going to go ahead and just hard code in a couple of variables here. So we'll just go ahead and say it's going to have a force of 400 being applied upwards and outward. Alright, so we're going to come back later and do a random range type, but for now, just so we can see it happening, let's go ahead and save this. We'll go back into Unity here. And then the one thing we want to make sure we do for the cannonball and the rigid body, on the drag, let's make sure that we take the drag and slow it down just a little bit. We're going to make this a 0.5 value for the drag. So rigid body is going to have a drag of 0.5. Alright, so now when we push play, what we should see when it goes, if you noticed, it now had an arc to it, and it hit, and it rolls and slows down, kind of like a cannonball. We just have this force that gets applied, and then it goes out through there. Alright. So that's going to be the basic setup there for it. We're applying a force, we're having it go up and down through there, and then once it gets done, it kind of rolls to a stop. Alright, so the last thing that we're going to do is take a look at the random values. We'll do that next. That way we can see how to apply a random range to the cannonball so it shoots differently each time.